analysis. We're joined from Cairo by the international relations expert, Mr. Ismail Turki. Welcome, sir, to Qnews. Let's start off here by asking, what new weight does the China-France statement bring to Gaza's diplomacy, and could it shift US or regional calculations? Let me repeat my question there, sir. And what weight does the China-France statement bring to diplomacy when it comes to Gaza? Could it possibly shift US or regional calculations moving forward?
Good evening to you and to all the viewers. I think that the statements released by US President Donald Trump that it is high time to move to the second phase of the deal that ended the war in the Gaza Strip and Sharm El-Sheikh is evidence that there are real intentions to pressure Israel to commit to the signed agreement in Sharm El-Sheikh. This agreement, which commits to a second phase with full withdrawal, as the Committee of Competencies will take over control of the Gaza Strip under the supervision of the International Peace Council or Committee. This was presented by real appreciation from all regional and international powers that Israel wants to stay in the first phase after taking the detainees back and to continue the bombing of Gaza. Israel, in my opinion, did not want to move to the second phase, and they wanted to achieve all of their goals without presenting anything or withdrawing from the Gaza territory. But that's why we see these pressures directed towards Israel at the moment.
Well, as you said there, sir, Israel, in your opinion, is stalling in every way possible, moving on to the second phase, including stalling aid. So, given this, how feasible is a large UN-supervised aid path across Gaza now, and how concrete access guarantees, what sort of concrete access guarantees are required to achieve this?
Certainly, the agreement entailed opening the crossings completely and providing complete access of aid to the strip, which was stalled by the many hindrances placed by Israel, closing the crossings and hindering the aid access and not allowing the humanitarian aid institutions to work and operate freely in the Gaza Strip, which is a complete obstacle to the role that can be carried out by the United Nations along with the UNRWA, and that was reported by the UN convoys and the United Nations itself, that there are real hindrances and obstacles being placed to prevent the operation of the humanitarian workers in Gaza. Most important of these obstacles, away from closing the crossings and hindering the aid access, it is the Israeli military existence in Gaza. Israel must withdraw according to the second phase requirements and to let the humanitarian institutions to operate freely and completely in Gaza, which required President Donald Trump to call upon the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House to pressure him face to face to oblige Israel to commit to the deal and move to the second phase.
If we could possibly shift our focus here to the West Bank. Now, the Israeli forces have deployed in Qalqaliya under a new operation. How might this affect the conditions there in the West Bank with an increase in violence? And could this possibly affect the ceasefire negotiations as well?
Certainly, I think that the far-right government has real intention to continue the military escalation, whether the Gaza Strip, as they are exerting maximum pressure to not to commit to the deal. They are escalating in the West Bank, southern Lebanon, and Syria. This escalation, which I consider the fuel used by the far-right government to carry out their goals without the military pressure in Gaza by pressuring the West Bank. There will be a real threat to Benjamin Netanyahu and true pressures on Netanyahu by the far right, who stated their intentions to evacuate the Palestinian population and to annex as much land as possible, whether in the West Bank or in Gaza Strip.
Okay, if we could also take a look here at the Eurovision, this is also making headlines. There have been calls to boycott Eurovision because of the Israeli participation there. Do you think that these cultural boycotts, or even the economic boycotts that have taken place for the last 2 years, could possibly maybe soften the Israeli position or harden it when it comes to the continued violence in the Gaza Strip, and maybe not even push forward towards a ceasefire?
On the contrary, in my opinion, these European stances, which shifted from traditional stances supporting Israel, they are now pressuring Israel because Israel has crossed all red lines. We have seen Israel before the Sharm El-Sheikh agreement has reached the maximum degree of isolation as a punished state by the entire world, and there was a lot of solidarity with Palestine and increasing recognition as 160 states recognize the Palestinian state, including 4 of the full members in the United Nations and Security Council, which is a real pressure on Israel and on the United States. Even the US President Trump intervention to impose the peace agreement and obliging Israel to agree to this was due to his attempt to save and rescue Israel from this phase they have reached and the increasing and growing boycotts from all around the world. And I think such stances have a real influence and they pay their fruits when it comes to the Israeli isolation and making it a punished state.
Also, Prime Minister Netanyahu is still making headlines about his court case when it comes to corruption charges. How might these courtroom fights shape Israel's attitude when it comes to Gaza and the West Bank?
In my opinion, this path will give an excuse to Benjamin Netanyahu and to the far right when doors are closed before him to have a presidential pardon or survival from the internal trials. He will escalate militarily and he will try to escape this situation by carrying out military operations and annexing more lands and creating more settlements. Continuing the military escalation in southern Lebanon and Syria, because he is tying his future to these escalations. He wanted a presidential pardon, but we see the surveys that the Israeli public wanted to give this pardon provided that he withdraws from the political life completely, which he completely rejects along with the far right officials. He wants to keep having these sensitive positions in Israel and in the Israeli government, which will give him more fuel to give shocking decisions against the Palestinians and against the neighboring countries.
Okay, thank you so much. From Cairo, that was the international relations expert, Mr. Ismail Turki. Thank you for joining us here on Q News.